This week on The Real Housewives of Miami.
You just call me ratchet?
Well, because you're trying to throw me under the bus.
But that's what you did. You are too old to be talking like this to people. Oh, Kiki, stop. I'm ratchet?
I'm old.
Yeah,
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be recapping the new episode of The Real Housewives of Miami, Season 7, Episode 12. Let's get right into it. Alright, so we pick up with Larsa storming out. She ripped Lisa a new one. Most of the girls followed Larsa out, and Larsa tells them that Jodi has been texting her. And Jodi pretty much said, "Don't fight us, let it go, don't lie." I don't know why Larsa was acting like he was harassing her, and I don't know why the girls, Marisol, Guerdy, Stephanie, Julia, Kiki, they're all so shocked, as if he was harassing her or if he was accosting her. Like, he wasn't saying anything bad. Like, do I think it's ideal for a guy to be texting his girlfriend's friend? No. But these aren't normal circumstances. They are on a show, and Larsa has been putting things out there about him on the show. Larsa has involved him. He has every right to text her, and by the way, he was very respectful. He didn't cuss her out. He didn't call her names, which honestly he could. Why not? Lisa then tells them all to go back to dinner. She has to really deal with something legal that has to be done right now. So Larsa does go back to the dinner table. Lisa then exits to take care of what she needs to do. I felt really bad for her. She's very upset. Guerdy was very supportive, not only in making her feel better, but Guerdy was also making sure to help Lisa take care of that thing Lisa needed to do, like finding a notary, getting this stuff. Like, Guerdy was in we need to solve this now mode. Back at the dinner table, the girls are all trashing Lisa. The only one really having her back is Adriana. Adriana says that she really needs to take care of this, talking about Lisa, about this legal thing, because Lenny is only giving her an hour to do it. Alexia says she doesn't really believe that part, that she only has an hour. So Adriana says, "Alexia, babe, you know how men are. This is Lenny who we're talking about. If Todd was coming for you and you needed to..." And then that's when Alexia gets mad and she's like, "Leave Todd out of this. Enough." Listen, I've started to notice that Adriana likes to use analogies, but unfortunately, with Alexia, she uses some that trigger Alexia. Then Marysol makes the dumbest comment saying, "Why shouldn't Jodi be helping her out with this right now? You know, if Lisa might lose her kids about this legal thing, Jodi should be the one helping her instead of texting Larsa." But the funny thing is, they actually show Larsa, who's outside, on the phone with Jodi, who's actually doing exactly that. He is helping Lisa find someone, helping her figure it out, trying to get her in contact with this person. So Marysol, you need to shut up. Okay, so back at the dinner table, Adriana says to Stephanie, "I went to mass today." And Stephanie says, "Why?" And Adriana says, "Because I'm sensitive. It's a lot to deal with." And her eyes were like full of water. They were like, she had tears in her eyes. Larsa then says, "Adriana, go in the corner if you're gonna cry. You're making excuses for somebody's bad behavior." Larsa is so rude. I really don't understand all this animosity from Larsa towards Lisa, like over freaking Instagram or who she's following. Are you serious? You're that vain? Anyway, Lisa was able to handle what she needed. She really didn't need all of that antagonization by the lady with the blowfish looking face. Like, come on now. Lisa then heads back. Lisa says, "Okay, now that I'm done with everything, like, what's going on?" Larsa says, "Your boyfriend shouldn't have been sending me messages." And they actually, like I said, they read the messages. They were not anything bad. Lisa says, "Well, you're the one who involved him in the first place." Larsa then starts to go off on Lisa again. "You're a victim. You're this. You're that. You had a yeast infection. You're always the victim." Lisa then, she's not really saying anything, but she begins to type something on her phone, which Marysol catches, and she's like, "What are you doing?" Lisa says, "Oh, I'm just writing what she's telling me so I can remember." And apparently that's like the worst thing somebody can do, according to Marysol, Alexia, Kiki, and Larsa. They think this is dangerous, and why would a friend do that? How dare she? Lisa says, well, it's one thing I've learned during my whole, court process and everything is my lawyers recommend to keep notes of what's happening, which I don't really see anything wrong with that. Julia then says that she wants to have fun. She wants to end the night having fun, so she starts to kiss everyone. Marisol, Kiki, Guerdy, and that was pretty much it for the night. So then it is now a new day, and they're going to be hanging out, doing some different stuff into two groups. One of the groups is going to be Lisa, Adriana, Kiki, and Guerdy, and then everyone else is in the other group. That other group, they're walking across the city. They're just kind of just talking about things like, I didn't know Marisol's mom had a house in Mexico, things like that. Then they go to a nice little place that used to be a ceramic factory in the 19th century, and now it's like an art studio. Lots of like canvases and tiles and things like that to paint. I like those types of activities. But then of course they had to turn it into some sexual thing, and they had to draw whatever. So they're talking about how the next day they're going to Marbella. Remember that Stephanie had offered to take them all on her private plane, but here in this scene she's asking Larsa, do you feel comfortable with Lisa being on the plane? And Larsa's like, no, not really. And I was like, Stephanie, stop. Like, you offered to take them all. Follow your promise. Julia says that she's really looking forward to this Marbella trip because she's going to be meeting some good friends of her and Martina's, and she's going to be asking them to be her kids' godparents. They don't know. It'll be like some proposal, I guess. But I cannot believe that Stephanie is seriously considering not inviting Lisa. Like, that is messed up. So she and Julia are going off about how Lisa ruins the environment and she shouldn't be there. Larsa says, yeah, and like Lisa, she's taking notes on us. How horrible. And Marisol's like, yeah, that's scary. She's never done that before, but now she's thinking more. What? So the other group with Adriana, they went to Alcasar of Seville, and it's this beautiful, beautiful place in Spain. And this is one of the reasons I love Adriana. She is serving as a tour guide, as an expert, as a professor. I just really, really love someone who is smart and educated. She was telling them how the Muslims built this, how this is the oldest palace in Europe, what year, and all this history. And like I said last week, what she is saying is correct. I took a class on Spanish civilization, so a lot of this sounds familiar, and she is spot on. She is very traveled. She's very, she says she's been to 58 countries. She studied art history. So, yeah, she's very, very smart. And as somebody who was a history major also, I can truly appreciate topics like this. I can literally sit hours and hours and hours talking about some historical event that happened a long time ago. But anyway, and by the way, off topic, but you want to know something? Speaking of like this palace, when you look at some of these marvelous places, like churches and palaces that were built centuries and centuries and centuries ago, when they had no technology, it makes me like, I think to myself, now that we have all of this technology, everything that's modern looks basic and plain. What happened to this architecture from back in the day? Bring us back. Okay, so after that, they are able to walk a little bit as well, and they have a much better, lighter energy than the other group. But anyway, they're talking about, Lisa talks a little bit about her divorce and how her children have been handling the divorce. We haven't actually, I don't think, seen her kids this season, which, if we haven't, because we might have, but I forgot. But if we haven't, I wonder if maybe Lenny doesn't allow them to be. I don't know. But anyway, she's talking about her children are, going through this whole divorce thing. But then Keke said, well, I don't think anyone's boyfriend should be texting anyone in the group. Which, she's talking about Jodi, which again, fair. That's a reasonable opinion, reasonable stance. But again, Larsa brought him up. Your friend brought him up, Keke. Guerdy then encourages Lisa to unfollow Marcus Jordan because maybe if she does that, it will sort of tame Larsa. Lisa says, I don't want her to tell me what to do, which is understandable too, because who is Larsa? Is she the boss? Is she senior staff at Bravo? No. Adriana then says to Lisa, listen, I get you don't want to be told what to do, but if you think about it also, Larsa is using this specifically against you with the whole group, so maybe do it. So Lisa actually pulls out her phone and she unfollows Marcus. Okay, so then at this point, they're all back to the hotel, and the mean girl clique, they've agreed to have Marisol and Julia be the messengers to tell Lisa about the trip the next day. So they take her to a rooftop. Marisol and Julia, they meet Lisa, and Lisa's asking them, how was y'all's stay? Did y'all have fun? What'd you guys do? Blah, blah, blah. Julia then says, yeah, tomorrow we're going to Marbella, meeting my friends who I'm asking to be my kid's godparents. We're taking Stephanie's plane. And Lisa's, like, being genuine. She's like, oh, wow, that's awesome. Like, I'll definitely be on my best behavior. So Marisol then says, you have to put your phone away, though. Lisa says, I can't put my phone away. I have 2 children that I need to be, aware of if they ever need to reach out to me. Marisol says, well, you know what? We're going to make, like, a rule. We're going to have a basket so everybody can put their phone in there. Lisa's like, no, I'm not doing that. Marisol's like, listen, the notes that you're taking have everybody on the edge. Lisa says, the reason I do it is because Larsa is the one who likes to take things and twist them and lie. I need to keep everything that she says straight. Marisol says, well, if there's an emergency, is there, like, no one to take care of your kids other than you? Lisa says, no, they just have me. So then Marisol's like, well, what about Jodi? He's your partner. He's not available. What kind of love is that? Lisa, she has to leave at that point. And she says that she won't be going to dinner either because she doesn't feel welcomed. I did think Marisol crossed a little bit of a line with that. Like, how are you going to tell her, make someone else take care of your kids, and why isn't Jodi? Like, come on, Marisol, no. So it's a little bit later. They're getting ready for dinner. Guerdy does Adriana's makeup. They all looked great, except Julia. Alexia FaceTimes Lisa. They did convince her to go to dinner. She says, okay, she'll be a tiny bit late, which is no surprise, but she'll be joining them. They take 2 separate vehicles to dinner, and one of the vehicles where Alexia was in, she was talking a little bit more about her time in Spain. She lived there when she was very young. Adriana says, how come you didn't marry a Spaniard? And Alexia says she was actually engaged to a Spaniard whose, I believe it was dad or granddad, was the owner of Pepsi Cola in Spain. So that's kind of crazy how her life would have been so different had she, stayed with him. So they go to dinner. Everybody's there except Lisa, because remember, she's going to be a bit late. Julia and Marysol tell everybody the conversation they had with Lisa. So speaking of Lisa, Adriana says, oh, Larsa, Lisa unfollowed Marcus. Good news. Larsa's like, well, that's the bare minimum. But you guys, Guerdy turns to Adriana and says, Adriana, we weren't supposed to say anything. We told Lisa that we wouldn't share it. We literally all pinky promised. Adriana's like, I either forgot or I didn't hear that. Lisa then joins them in that moment. It was a bit of an awkward silence. She was an hour late, which, that is not good. Lisa then says, so, what's the tea? So Kiki, I could tell she was very bothered that Adriana, spilled the beans. So she says, Lisa, we all made a promise not to say anything, and Adriana spilled it. She mentioned it all. Adriana says, no, it didn't happen like that. Kiki, stop being so ratchet. And everybody's like, what? And then Kiki says, Adriana, that is effed up. You're calling me ratchet. You're the most ratchet person here. We all made a promise. And then Julia is saying that Kiki is overreacting. And Kiki says, I'm about to get real ratchet right now. And then Alexia's like, that's not the right word. Everyone here uses the wrong words. Adriana says, well, she was trying to throw me under the bus. And then Kiki says, because you did do that. You are too old to be talking like this to people. And that comment drove Adriana insane. She says, what? I'm old? Wow, okay, I'm old. And then I was like, Adriana, you're 60 years old. By the way, you look amazing. You look like you could be maybe even 45. So don't be upset. I mean, isn't Guerdy in her late 30s? So yeah, you're over 20 years older than her. So yeah, you are old too, Kiki. It's not a big deal, but Adriana took it really, really bad. And then she says, this is ageism. Okay, Adriana, I'm gonna need you to calm down. Ageism, really? Larsa then says, listen, if we want to move forward as a group of friends, we all need to know how to coexist and use common sense. To which Adriana's like, well, I guess if you're too old, then you can't do that. Lisa then wants to apologize for yesterday. She then explains the motive behind the notes. She says, ever since I began my whole journey with my divorce, the lawyers have told me. But then Adriana's like, oh, wait, I have to go. I have to go babysit her kids because I'm too old. I should be a nanny. I'm too old. I need to be babysitting her kids. And I was like, okay, Adriana, you are doing way too much. They've already moved past this. But in all typical Miami fashion, this didn't stop there, because now Stephanie is the one getting up, ranting and raving about how they've ruined dinners. I was like, now why are you mad? Alexia says, I am embarrassed. They don't do this in Spain. So she and Marysol walk away, trying to hide their faces. They don't want to be seen in public. I was like, I can't. This is definitely the telenovela of Housewives. For some reason, when they're in the van, Stephanie burst into tears. I was like, what is happening? Crying over a 22-minute plane ride. It's not that serious, Stephanie. So then the four of them, the cool girl club, quote unquote, are back in the hotel, and they're bonding, talking about bad about Adriana and Kiki and Lisa. And then Stephanie gives them some invitation to ride the plane. I don't know if those were like waivers they had to sign or something. But then Stephanie asks for a pen from the front desk to create a seating chart of how they will be all at the plane sitting, which is kind of funny. And there's going to be a lone seat, and it's ridiculous. Over a 20-minute flight, you guys. Mind you, they could put some headphones on, listen to a few songs on a playlist, and like that'll be all. Matter of fact, this recap that I just did is practically almost the same amount of time they're going to spend on the plane, so it's really not that serious. This was crazy. I would say this though, love Adriana, but I didn't like her using that word with Keke for two reasons. Number one, not only is Keke not ratchet, that doesn't even, she's not. Number two, that wasn't even the correct word to use. Like, there wasn't any, I mean, if she wanted to be like, okay, Keke, stop being involved, or Keke, stop there was no reason to use that word, because it didn't even make sense in that context. And Adriana's way too smart, as we just mentioned. She has a good vocabulary, so she knows better than to use that. So she definitely owes Keke an apology, and she was overdoing it with the old thing. Like, calm down. But yeah, guys, this episode did not disappoint. Lots of drama. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions were. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all next time. You'll have a great one. Bye.